Hey guys, welcome again to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome. In today's video, we'll be making this lovely dress. Thank you to all our subscribers. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any question, drop it down in the comment box below. Thank you. So I have my fabric folded into two. The first for the front part and the second one for the back area. Also folded into two. I'm placing it on the shoulder because I'll be cutting it together, both front and back. So I'll go ahead and mark out my zipper allowance. I'll be using 1 inch for the zipper allowance. So I marked it out. Then I'll go ahead to mark my starting point. So that's where I'm going to be starting. I'll place my tape rule there and mark out 12 inches, which is my half length. From my shoulder to the waist is 12 inches. Then I added 0.5 allowance for sewing. Then I'll go ahead to mark the shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement is 13. I divided it by 2, then added 0.5 for sewing allowance. Then I'll go ahead and mark it, but I won't mark it straight. I'll slant it with 0.5. Remember, this is not for adults, so I will not be using 1. I'll use 0.5. So I'll slant it towards the neck area. Then for the armhole, I'll be using 6. I'll go ahead to connect it to the shoulder point. I use 6 for the armhole. Then I'll connect it horizontally. So I'll go ahead to mark out my bust measurement. The bust measurement I'll be using is 24. 24 divided by 4. Yes, I'm dividing it by 4 because the front part is folded into 2. Then the back part is folded into 2, making it 4. So I'm dividing the bust measurement by 4. I have 12. I added 2 inches for sewing allowance and extra 1.5 allowance for. Then I'll go to the waist measurement and divide it also the same way I did for the bust, dividing it by 4. Then I'll mark it. Then connect from my bust to my waistline. Then for my armhole, I will go up like 0.5. You can swear go up 0.7. Then I'll divide my armhole into 2. Then at the middle point, I'll go in by 0.5. So I will slant it up and down to the armhole curve, just as you see me do. And if you have your curve ruler, just place it there and do it straight. Then I'll go ahead to mark out the neck measurement. I use 3 by 2.5. Then I'll connect it together, just as you see me do. But I won't use the same measurement for the back area. I want the back to be up a bit, so I will use 1.5 for the back. Then I'll connect it. So when I'm cutting it, I'll first cut the back part and remove it, separate it before cutting out the down part of the neck for the front. I'll go ahead and cut my fabric. Remember the curve parts for the armhole, it just meant for the front, so I didn't cut it out on the back part. So I made the back normal, just the front part that has the curve. Then I went ahead to open up the back part, that is the zipper allowance. So again, I went ahead to cut the same thing I've drafted out already on the lining. So I'll go ahead and sew it. I will stitch the neck, the sides, and the down parts, leaving the armhole open so that I can turn it out from there. The same thing I will do to the back. So the zipper side, the neck, the down parts, and the sides. So we'll go ahead to cut out the down parts, which is 3-step raffle. And this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be cutting it out first using my lining. So I folded my lining just as I've seen it, like in a triangular form. Okay, so remember the raffle is going to be joined on the waist area, and the waist measurement I have is 23 plus 1 inch, which is 24. Then I will divide that 24 into 2 because my lining is folded into 2. So I have 12. So I will mark out the 12 on my lining. So I'll go ahead now and mark it out on my lining. Okay, by the time I cut this out and open it and measure it well, I'm going to be getting more than 24. So that's why I didn't bother adding my allowance. But remember, the full length of this gown is 33, and from shoulder to waist, which is half length, is 12. Removing the 12 from 33, I have 21 left. So I have 21 for the raffle. Okay, and my lining is not going to be equal with the length of the dress, so I want it to be shorter. So I'll go ahead and remove 4 inches from the main measurement, which is 32. So removing 4, I will have 28. So I'll just place 12 from my tape rule straight on that line that I marked out. Remember, the 12 is for the upper body, so I'll just place the 12 there and mark out 28 round on the lining. So as you can see, I placed 12 on that mark. That mark there is the waist part, remember. Then I'll mark out 28 from the lining, marking it out exactly the way you mark out your flay. After marking it out, I'll go ahead and cut out what I have. So cutting it out, you can see what I have now. So I will divide this into 3. Remember, it's 3 steps. We'll secure the side with safety pin. So when you are trying to make no matter the measurement you use, try to make the length of the last step shorter than the rest of this step. Remember, you will not like your lining to be showing under the flay. As you can see, I labeled it 1, 2, 3. So this thing I did there, I'll replicate it again on the other side. So for the first step, I will measure what I have, then multiply it by 2 first. Remember, the cloth is folded into 2. Then I'll do the same on the second and the third step. I'll measure it and multiply by 2. Multiplying it by 2 will give me the accurate length of each of the curve, both the first step, the second and the third step. More explanation. Let's assume the first step I measure is 12. 12 times 2, remember that line is folded into 2, making it 24. Then that 24, I'm going to multiply it by 3. Then anything I get, multiplying it by 3 is what I'm going. So anything I get will be the wideness of my fabric. But for the length I use for this, I just use 8 inches for all the lengths. But the wideness differs from step to steps. So remember, for my dress, I use the same length, both the first, the second, the third. But with the help of that lining I've curved out, it gives me very perfect finishing. Note, you can as well multiply by 2. Depends on how full you want it to be, or the quantity of the material you're using. But using 3 makes it very nice. After that, this is how I sew the down part, and you can as well weave it, but I like it sewn stitch just like this. So you can just watch how I fold it up and stitch round. And for the other parts of the full, it's gathers. So I'm going to loosen up my machine and stitch this in a very loose way. Then if you watch my previous video, I showed how I did gathers on dress. So you can see the gathers we have there. So now I'm going to be placing these gathers on my lining. Then see how I place the last step, which is the third one. The same way I'm going to place the second one too. Just the fourth one that will be like this, facing up. You can as well see how I place it, then I stitch it. Please don't forget, be conscious of the right and the left side of your fabric. So when you are turning it, you can see, so by the time you finish sewing it, the front will be the right side. Then I did the same for the third and the second, then for the first one you can see how I place it just straight. So this is what I have after stitching. You can see what I have. The sewing is not showing, it's showing under. Then you can as well carry the under parts to your weaving machine and weave it. So this is what we have. You can as well use this step for your skirt, for your step skirt. Just place your band or anything you want to be at the upper. Okay, after I was done sewing the lining and the fabric together, I turn it out from the armhole area. Then I'm going to, after ironing it, I'll go ahead to mark out the dart. So I went in 3 inches, then go up 5 inches. The same thing I did for the other side. Then I'm going to hold that part and sew it up. So I'll go ahead and mark out the exact body measurement from the fabric. This time around, I'm going to be dividing my bust and my waist measurements by 2, not by 4 again. So dividing my bust measurements by 2, no allowance added. Then I will do the same too for the waist area. I also included the dart measurements. Remember, I've not yet held up the dart measurements, so try to add up the dart measurement before marking so that it won't be tight. The same thing I did for the front part, I did for the back area too, excluding my zipper allowance, then marking the same measurement for the dart area. After I was done holding up the darts and the zipper allowance, I placed the front on the back part to mark out my exact measurements. This is how I close my shoulder. I'll open up the back part just as you are seeing, the lining separate. Then I'm going to place the front part on it. You can just wash and do. Using this method is very nice and it makes the shoulder points to be closed. You won't see any stitch allowance there. So I will hold it up like this and flip up the lining towards the front part I placed on it, just as you see me do. You can wash and do the same. Then I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch it together. So after I was done joining the back and the front together using my exact measurement, then this is me trying to remove the zipper allowance and taking the measurement I have left, which is the exact waist measurement, and this is how I'm going to join the down part to the upper part of my dress. So I'm placing it now, you can see it. Then again, I'm flipping the upper part to the back, making the right face the right side. Then I'll take it down to my machine and stitch it together. Then having the back part open, then I'll go ahead and fix in my zipper. Then this is how I cut the sleeve. It's just normal basic sleeve. The round sleeve is 8. I divided it by 2. I added 1 inch allowance. Then I cut out the armhole part, then cutting everything out and stitching it together to the main dress. Don't forget to fold the down part of your sleeve. Guys, if you have watched this video to this point, please try to give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. See you in our next video.